Welcome to You Talk Sports, where you get to be in the talk show. Tonight, we are going to be responding to some of the most controversial clips from the Pat McAfee Show today. And then we're going to be featuring a full slate of college games tonight. In fact, this is the college game of the year tonight. UConn versus Marquette. That'll be tipping off at 8:30 p.m. tonight. We've also got a great game between Tennessee and South Carolina here, as Tennessee is angling to get a number one seed. But today, because that game doesn't kick off till 8:30, we're going to start with responding to some of the most controversial and interesting clips that were in the Pat McAfee Show today. So I'll be playing some of these clips. And we look forward to hearing from you. I'll have my own takes. We'd love to hear your takes on this. If you're watching us on YouTube, we would love to have you join us here on Zoom. I'm going to drop the Zoom link into the chat. And if you're here in Zoom, we'd love to have you over in the YouTube chat. And what you can expect to see tonight is some of the best highlights from the Pat McAfee Show. It's a 3-hour show, right? So most of us don't have time to go back and watch the whole thing. So we're going to be breaking down the best sound bites from there. And you know what's interesting is every episode, their production team picks 2 clips that they cut up into smaller YouTube videos and reels. And I feel like they always miss the best clips. The real stuff, the good stuff that their production team seems to miss. And that's what we're going to be giving you here. So you're going to get the best of the Pat McAfee Show. You're going to hear from real fans. And we'd love to have you here in the show. And if you're watching this on the replay and want to join us for a future episode, just comment saying Zoom in the chat. And we'll be sure to get you the Zoom link so that you can join us in an upcoming episode. And we're going to be going strong like we do every night from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Our marquee game kicks off tonight. It is Marquette versus UConn, the battle for the Big East, the battle for a number one seed in March Madness, and the college game of the year is happening here tonight. So with that in mind, I wanted to play a clip that kind of ties back to yesterday's game from the Pat McAfee Show. We watched last night the Celtics Cavs. I'm still representing my Celtics here. They had a heartbreaking loss last night at the buzzer. And let's see what Pat McAfee had to say about that game. And then I want to get your takes responding to this clip. All right, here it is. This is with Kendrick Perkins, who was on the show today as well.
Last night, Kelsey bobblehead night, we actually got them shipped to us. Very cool addition to the office at the Cleveland Cavaliers game. And because Travis was there, that means the Swifties were watching. And I heard the NBA rigged the game last night for the Cavaliers to beat the Celtics. Now, that is what Connor came in and said.
They did it, Perk.
He's a big-time Celtics fan.
They did it. They said the Kelseys were crying all day. We need to give them a smile, so let's make sure the Cavs win. That's what they did, Perk.
So is Taylor Swift having an effect on the NBA now?
Whoa.
Is my question with her power. Or is the Kelseys just such a radiant force when they're in the building? It is positive vibes in big dubs, like it's been for the Chiefs,
right,
and like it's been for the Eagles.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So love that they are feeding the conspiracy angle, and want to get your response to that. If you saw what happened in last night's game, most of us were here together watching that game. We come together and watch the games every night from 7 to 10 p.m. I thought it'd be good. I also pulled in I also pulled in a clip from Colin Kaepernick today that kind of ties in with this. And because we're going to go around the horn and get responses from everyone on this, on the Cavs Celtics game last night. But I thought it'd be good to see what Colin's saying as well. This way we're pulling in the best of the best, and then we're giving our real fan responses. Just make sure you're also following us over on YouTube. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. That helps us out. And we'd love to have you be a part of the community here. So let's hear what Colin Kaepernick is saying.
They got one trip to the finals where they had a little bit, blew it, and no trophies. They are becoming the Buffalo Bills. We saw those old Buffalo Bill teams with Jim Kelly were great. Hall of Fame, never got a title. I'm watching this Buffalo Bills team. Doesn't feel like they're going to get to a Super Bowl, right? Like this Chiefs defense now is all kids, only getting better. And I got Mahomes in his prime. I'm feeling like Boston's got that feeling like, yeah, you're not as good as Denver because you don't have anybody as good as Jokic. Jokic's the best player in the world. See Jokic this weekend? He went up against AD, the best defensive big, and Draymond Green. Housed both. Porzingis has a history of getting hurt. And Drew Holiday, who plays real defense, going to be 34 next year. He's 33 now. Guys that play that level of defense age much more quickly than guys that just come down and jack it up.
Never heard anybody say that before. All right, so I'm excited to hear from you guys about last night's game, about the Kelce's and Taylor Swift conspiracy theory. Are the Celtics the Buffalo Bills, or what happened last night in your view? Let's start with Jeremiah.
Hey, what's up? What's up, guys? How you doing? Sorry about that. Mute problems. As far as the game last night goes, I do not believe in conspiracy theories for team sports at all, as if teams lay down for gambling purposes or any other. Yeah, I can buy it in a tennis match, a golf event, where it's one guy you got to buy. I do not believe you buy a team of athletes. This isn't the 1919 World Series or whatever it was. This doesn't happen anymore. You're not buying all of them.
So no Taylor Swift effect for you in that game. So what did happen in the game? What's your take on what happened in that game? The Celtics are up 20 in the fourth quarter, if you missed it, and somehow lose the game.
Hey, Tatum fell apart at the end. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen all the time. I like Boston in the finals. I kind of agree that I like Denver beating Boston in the finals if they were to meet up. But as far as that goes, Tatum fell apart last night. They're not going to – they wouldn't lose a 7-game series even with Donovan Mitchell and Max Strus, I don't believe.
Yeah, okay. So Tatum, I saw a stat today that he has the lowest clutch efficiency of any superstar in the league. And he showed it again last night, is Jeremiah's take. Let's go next to Alvin. I'd love to get your response to Pat McAfee spreading conspiracy rumors that Taylor Swift and the Kelce's are influencing NBA games now since they were in attendance last night. And are the Celtics the new Buffalo Bills?
Whoa, Greg! You're not gonna get me in trouble with the Swifties. My little niece is a Swiftie fan, so I'm not gonna get the Swifties. I'm with the Kelce's. Go Cavs, go! No, I don't buy into the conspiracy about last night. What it is that you're resting on your laurels. Typically what teams like the Celtics, who are front runners, do. They rest on their laurels. They figure the Cavs didn't have what it took. The Cavs have the energy of the crowd and everything. And when it got tight, what do players do? They try to make too much happen, and it just came down to a shot that Celtic star missed. Kudos and hats off to the Cavs, but the Kelce's are not going to be there every night. I can tell you that in a 7-game, unless they so happen to play Boston in the playoffs. But other than that, they're not going to hold their hand for this next 20-some game stretch. So
I didn't even know they're Cleveland guys. I'm like, doesn't he play for Philadelphia?
Well, they hometown. They grew up, born and raised Cleveland guys. Both went to University of Cincinnati. So that's what that was about.
Good point.
And as far as
I think you make a good point about just kind of letting up a little bit. I don't know if they were resting on their laurels. They were up 20. They were playing great. But if you let your foot off the gas at all, when these are NBA teams, these are pro players. If you let up at all, you leave yourself vulnerable to something like this. It reminds me of I play tennis with my same friend. Almost every day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and she's getting better and better, and now we're beating each other. But early on, I was beating her most of the time. And I remember I was way up one time, and I'm like, usually we work play for an hour. I'm like, it's only been like 35, 40 minutes. I'm just going to let up this set because I want to at least get my full workout in, and I don't want her to get discouraged and quit on playing with us. And then sure enough, that was the first time she ever came back and actually beat me. And I'm like, man, I learned my lesson. You let up an ounce on somebody, and sometimes they can take that on you. So Awesome. All right, let's go next to Cameron. Cameron, let's get your response to Pat McAfee starting the Taylor Swift Kelsey conspiracy rumors about the NBA and the game last night.
Yeah, no, I don't think I don't buy into the conspiracy either. The Celtics, they were playing most of their bench in the fourth quarter, and when their starters came in, it was too late. It was all too late because Dean Wade had got hot. And I just wanted to say this about the Celtics real quick. It just seems like they haven't learned their lesson from last year and the years past. When they're not I mean, their philosophy has not changed. Their flaws were exposed in last year's playoffs. Their offense becomes more stagnant, conventional, and they only seem to look like a championship team when they're knocking down perimeter shots. When they're not knocking down perimeter shots, they go to this ISO ball, and things just start to stale out a little bit, it seems like. They need to learn how to be efficient without the three. I think that came back to haunt them in yesterday's game. They didn't knock down a single three in the fourth quarter. They had a 20-point lead. I saw a stat today saying that the Celtics were in their last 364 games. They had one going with a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter. Last night, they had a 20-point lead, and they ended up losing that game, their first time in over 364 games. So I think it's kind of worrying a little bit for the Celtics coming here or heading into the playoffs. They have a little history of choking. They should have beat the Cavs last night. No excuse. Donovan Mitchell was out. The Cavs are one of my sleeper teams that can have the Celtics go deep in the playoff push. They have great defense. I think they actually need to implement Dean Wade in the lineup more. I was saying this last night, and then maybe get Jarrett Allen or Mobley starting at the 5, because the Cavs offense seems to speed up when they spread the floor out a little more. But I just saw a good old choke job last night from the Celtics. I mean,
would you agree that if they fail to win a championship this year, are we looking at the Buffalo Bills comparison?
Oh, I think they're like the 49ers, honestly. I think they're more like the 49ers than the Bills. They have a stacked roster, one of the best rosters in the league. Every regular season, they perform well, but come playoff time, they either fall short or choke in the big game.
Yeah. All right. Awesome take there. And I know aside from you mentioning Dean Wade, I call him D Wade, right? The new D Wade. Aside from you mentioning him a week or so ago, I'd literally never heard of him. Last night's the first time I ever saw him play, and I watch a lot of basketball. This guy's been in the league for 5 years. He scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. He was just on fire. It's hard to stop anybody that's on fire like that, and anyone can get hot like that at all. Reminds me of Grant Williams carried the Celtics to one of their biggest wins over the Milwaukee Bucks a few years back in the playoffs. Sometimes a role player just gets hot.
Yeah.
But all the Celtics needed to do was score a couple more buckets. They had 9 points in the last 9 minutes, and they could have still won that game. So
the Cavs got a couple role players that can heat up real quick. Dean Wade proved it last night, and then Max Strus just a few nights ago got hot at the end of that game and then sealed it with the miracle shot at the end.
Yeah, that's right. And he was out last night too, Max Strus. So let's keep going around the horn here. Let's go next to Loyal Ricks. Great to get to see you here tonight. We're taking responses to Pat McAfee in the clip. He was insinuating that there might be a conspiracy theory here. Not really that all the players are in on it, but maybe the league was watching the Kelseys and they seemed upset that the Cavs were losing, and we can't have the Kelseys and Taylor Swift. And so somebody put in a call, maybe to the refs, maybe somewhere, and suddenly the Boston blew that game. Is that what you think happened last night, Loyal?
Man, not at all. I know one thing we all know about the NBA. Adam Silver has he wants a distinct separation between the NFL. He's very serious about the reputation of the NBA. So we all know that's not going on. And I think that highlights to the quality of play we seen last night from the Cavaliers. to be honest with you, it's the NBA. They just answered when they were down. If we look at it, I mean, they put up 34 points in the fourth quarter. That's magnificent for any NBA team when they're down like that. And I mean, if you, I think Cameron mentioned it earlier, the Boston Celtics, man, they have a way of going about themselves as, oh, we're the next team in the Eastern Conference. We're supposed to be the next up, but they've been choking a lot lately. They haven't been really reliable. A lot of people put the loss on Jason Tatum last night, but let's be honest, guys, like one man basketball is done. It's gonna take more. I know Porzingis had 24. I know Jaylen Brown had 21, but they knew who the ball was going to. Even if you talk about the controversial foul at the end, that ended up, I think it ended up being waved off. But the game shouldn't come down to a call. And at the end of the day, you shouldn't let a team come back like that. That's basketball, and we're nearing the playoffs. They're the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference. Like, come on, we gotta dig it out here. There's no excuse. No excuse.
Yeah. Good takes, good insights. You know, and the best takes are ones when we don't all agree. And obviously, I'm here as a Celtics fan. I feel we by far have the best starting 5 this year. We're not a one-man team in any way. I was glad the ball went to Tatum at the end of the game. I want him taking the last shot. He needs to develop and be able to do that. He's not there yet, but the only way he's going to get there is to keep going to him, keep giving these minutes. I didn't like some of the other shots right before that. What am I drawing a blank on the other guard? Fired up a 3. And Holiday's fired up a 3 that there was no need for. And before that, White shot up a 3, and they need to be swinging the ball to Tatum. If Tatum gets double teamed, he can kick it to Brown or kick it out to them. It's still too much hero ball. It's not enough Tatum. I think they need to feature Tatum more down the stretch, and he needs to go to the basket. He's still at the end of games, as we heard said, they get stagnant. He's still, he had Garland on him and still wound up taking a little step back mid-range jumper, which is better than taking a 3 the way he was doing early in his career, but he's still not driving it in there, getting to the line. He still doesn't look like Jimmy Buckets finishing games, and that's what he needs to grow into. You need a way to get an easy 2 at the end of the game like that. All right, let's continue. This is good. Let's go next to Will. Will, what do you think about the conspiracy thoughts that Pat McAfee is spreading?
I mean, it's a yes or no thing. You know, it can't be like this was the only game it happened in. You know,
This is the only game the Kelceys were at.
If there's conspiracy in the NBA, it's seen more than just in this game. You know, so with that, it was like the election, like I think it's either or, like one was rigged or they all were rigged. You know, it's hard for me to imagine like only one game has been rigged, you know? But I feel proud of myself because I was the guy who said take the team if the superstar's out. I took the Cavs at like plus 600 or something. So I feel proud of myself for that. I don't bet that often, but
good. I still wonder if that theory is really going to play out at all. Take the team, but you know, Cleveland just lost to New York on Sunday when Brunson went out hurt. So, so it does.
Keep an eye on it, you guys. Celtics are fine. Greg, you probably know more. If you're concerned about their bench, that's the only thing. If you're concerned about their bench, then that's the thing. But I think they're fine.
Yeah, I mean the bench is the bench, right? Nobody wins a championship because of their bench, in my opinion. You know, Peyton Pritchard and Al Horford are fine. The rest of those guys are trash on the bench, but most teams in the playoffs only play 7 or 8 guys. So I don't think that's really going to hurt them, you know, that much. Would I like to see them add a 3-and-D guy, maybe still somewhere in free agency down the stretch? If there's, because that still could happen in some sort of buyout or something.
Is there a guy?
What's that?
Is there a free agent that might be good to get?
There aren't really any that come to mind, but yeah, guys can get cut and down the stretch. Especially once teams are out of it, sometimes the veterans, you know, will request a cut. All right, let's hear next from Isaiah on to close out this topic on last night's game. Are the Celtics the new Buffalo Bills, and what happened last night, Isaiah?
I think Cameron had the best comparison. I think they're more like the 49ers. I think last night was more emblematic of what Boston is capable of doing when they aren't focused for the full game. And I think it goes a lot back to kind of what you were talking about last night, Greg, where does Joe Mazzulla really have this team prepared? Are they really ready? Is he really capable of leading this team to a championship? And it's just games like last night where you just kind of see them play really lackluster down the stretch, missing passes, poor shot selection, just stuff like that, where for the first 30 minutes of the game, you're just like, okay, where did that go? Like what happens in that last bit of the game where the players just seem to stop focusing and stop making those good decisions that got them to that point. And I think it's more not necessarily conspiracy, but I do like that people are trying to find other answers for Boston because they keep doing this over and over and over again, and they just keep running out of reasons why. So,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So good takes. I love hearing from everyone. I like to kind of save my own takes until the end so I don't steal anyone's thunder. Of course, being the Boston guy and also being a guy who's big on, just positive thinking, I believe in seeing the glass half full. You can always see the glass half full, or you can see the glass half empty. And I feel like everything that Boston has done up till this point since Jason Tatum came into the league, he's been in the league 6 or 7 years now, they have overachieved what's to be expected of them. And he's 25. He just turned 26 last week. LeBron James did not win a ring till he was 27. KD did not win a ring till he was 28. Jordan, I think, was 26. So, and Tatum's under all of that. And Tatum has already been to a finals. None of those guys went to a finals by age 24 like Jason Tatum did. None of those guys led their team to the playoffs like Jason Tatum led his team to the Eastern Conference Finals his rookie year. LeBron's rookie year, he missed the playoffs his first 2 years. KD missed the playoffs. Wemby's going to miss the playoffs this year, right? It just doesn't usually happen. And Tatum's done it. He's gone further. He's had more experience. Does he need to develop in the clutch? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's part of his progression, but he's just coming into his prime. He's just escalating. He's got the best unit around him, the best starting five. They defend. They shoot the three, and they just need Tatum to close out the games. They have everything there to be a championship team for the next couple years, but they got to get it together, and they got to be able to beat Denver and Jokic. You're still the champ until you beat the champ. We already went around the horn, Will, on this topic.
No, didn't LeBron make it against I think he played the Spurs, like one of his first years.
Yeah, but they didn't win that year. He didn't
True.
win a championship until he was 27 with with the Heat. And it was well into his career. All right, so let's go next. Actually, let's hop and look around the league. We've got a full slate of games here tonight. This is last night's scoreboard in the NBA. When we go around the horn and take your takes, I'd love to get some takes. We do ask everyone to bring your hot take. If you're watching us on YouTube and you want to join us on Zoom, we'd love to have you up here in Zoom. Let me put the Zoom link in here again. If you guys want to join us and bring your take, we'd love to get your take on these things. If you've watched Pat McAfee or these other shows and you're thinking, man, I would love to give my 2 cents on this. This is your chance to do that. That's what we do here every night. Just looking around the horn, there was a game that caught my eye last night. I'm wondering if Isaiah might have a take on this later because it was the Rockets over the Spurs. With Wemby getting completely trashed. I think I saw he let up 40 and didn't score in the second half against Sengurin, this Turkish guy. Is he really the next face of the league? Would be an interesting topic for us to get into. But let's go next to and stay on track with responding to what's being shared in Pat McAfee. Again, this clip I'm about to share with you, as well as the one we just did, to me, are the 2 best moments of the show, and their producers missed these moments, didn't put these out there. They were talking about some boring stuff about the Buffalo Bills and how big the Buffalo should be outside the stadium that they're trying to build. This I thought was really interesting. To their producer's credit, he did as well. Want to get your responses on this take.
And I have no intel to the Broncos of this player, but this would be an interesting type of comparison to that. Interesting
I think
type of.
it's off by a second here. There we go.
That's when the good stuff.
Yeah, that's when the
comes
good
out,
come out. And I have no intel to the Broncos of this player,
Yeah.
but this would be an interesting type of comparison to that. Mac Jones. There are people that coach the quarterback position in Indianapolis that believe if Kyle Shanahan would have legitimately taken Mac with the number 3 pick, which is kind of what he wanted to do in the first place, and then ended up getting talked out of it because Mac's probably ceiling wasn't very high and Trey Lance's ceiling was through the roof. And why'd you trade all of this for a guy with a ceiling that's about here? There's multiple guys told me this in Indy. Like, I think if he took Mac at 3, they would have won multiple Super Bowls by now.
If Shanahan, Mac Jones, he's got 4 Super Bowls.
All right. Mac Jones to the 49ers. Would they have won a Super Bowl by now? Would that be the right fit, the right system, the right player? That's what Shanahan wanted, supposedly, according to the Pat McAfee Show. I know Cameron is a 49ers fan. Love to get your take to start on that one.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we did not even, like I said, in that draft, I didn't even want Trey Lance. I didn't want Mac Jones. I like Justin Fields coming out of that draft. That's who I liked. He just impressed me so much that college football season and in those college football playoff games. He had thrown like 2 picks all year, I think, for Ohio State. Was a touchdown machine. So I was sold on Fields. He's a big physical guy, hard to bring down. Mac Jones, honestly, I've never, even when he was at Alabama, I thought Alabama could have had a better quarterback back there. I thought he got carried. He did a lot of short dump passes, never really impressed me, even in the championship
Well, let's
game.
play the what-if game. If he was on the 49ers since day one of the draft, you think they would be better or worse than they've been these last?
I think they'd be worse. I think they'd be worse. Brock Purdy's done a phenomenal job. I think Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback. His progression, what makes Brock Purdy a great quarterback is how fast he's able to read the field and progress. Mac Jones, on the other hand, he hasn't been able to do that for the Patriots. He gets sacked a lot. He doesn't get the ball out of his hands. He turns the ball over a lot. Even Jimmy G was not my favorite quarterback there at San Francisco. I thought they. Well,
I think those are the ones I think they're saying Mac might have been able to win that one of those Super Bowls because Mac was playing at an all-pro level his rookie year, which was I think the Jimmy G year. Let's go around the horn on this. Jeremiah, if the 49ers had drafted Mac Jones, you think they would have won a Super Bowl by now?
Well, I feel the same thing. Pat would have probably beat him both times. I feel it would have been somewhat comparable. I don't feel that Brock Purdy is a lot better than Mac would have been in that system. You know, had he been given that from day one, it'd have been a lot better than what he went with Belichick with no offense. Matt Patricia playing offensive coordinator up there, the pencil. I mean, that was awful.
Yeah. So is it possible there's more to Mac Jones than we've seen? Being under Matt Patricia, Mac Jones, last year was a complete fiasco. Belichick didn't even want him there. Belichick had wanted to trade Jones. Kraft made them keep him. So last year was trash. The year before that was trash with Matt Patricia. His rookie year, he made the All-Pro team. So is there some upside potential still to Mac Jones, Jeremiah?
Yeah, he wasn't given a fair shake with all the coaching he's gotten, but that sometimes it is what it is. You didn't shine. I feel he'll be a backup going forward unless he gets another opportunity. There's a guy like Josh Rosen. If we were picking a draft, they took Kyler Murray number 1 next year, and they kept shipping him to the worst teams in the NFL. The kid never got a chance. Not that he would have panned out, but we won't ever know.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah, I think that's a good metaphor. You know, Rosen, was taken around that same spot, and there was high hopes from him. Loyal, what's your take on Pat McAfee Show saying Mac Jones would have led the 49ers to a Super Bowl by now?
Initially when I hear it, you automatically think about 49ers defense. Okay, Mac Jones would have had a comfort blanket. You know what I mean? He would have been able to develop a little bit more, and you could kind of feel it. But I don't really buy into really Mac Jones as he is right now as an NFL quarterback. We mentioned he had a great rookie year, 24 touchdowns, did a great job, but I think that I'm not going to say it was circumstance. You know, he has talent, but it wasn't the best group of receivers. And then the next year he had 14. Then we see what he did with 10. So I think he wouldn't have had the time to develop really as a quarterback. Same kind of thing where he had to do in New England. Granted, New England has been under a lot of things with, you know, we see what's going on with Belichick. The Tom Brady's the discussions after he left. So he didn't really enter a compromising situation. But I think San Francisco has been able to do a lot more with Brock Purdy, even if you look at the financial aspect.
Mm-hmm. All right, Alvin, I'm going to reframe this a little. So looking at the way Kyle Shanahan's been able to develop Purdy, if that same level of coaching and development and play supporting cast was given to Mac Jones, who is proven to be able to win championships as a game manager. He led Alabama to a championship. That was a loaded Alabama team, right? With Waddle and Devonta Smith. And their running back went in the first round that year too, like a loaded team. And all he needed to do was execute and game manage and not turn the ball over. Could he have done that in San Francisco, Alvin?
I believe that's an absolute yes. He could have done it in San Francisco. Brock Purdy could have done it in San Francisco. Let's flip the lens and look at and shine that light on Kyle Shanahan. At some point, we got to recognize that Kyle Shanahan is Charlie Brown. How many times Lucy is going to come take the ball in those big games? We need to look at his decision making after this season, and they don't get the results that they need. I don't think we're going to worry about what quarterback was supposed to be in that system. We're going to be worrying about, is Shanahan really the coach that we thought he was?
Mm-hmm. Especially with Belichick looming out there. I think any of these coaches, the Cowboys, 49ers, Philadelphia, or Belichick could replace any one of them next year. They're all on the hot seat if they don't make the Super Bowl. I expect whoever of those three, it's Super Bowl or bust. The two that don't make the Super Bowl, I don't think will have their coaches back next year. And the one that does will save his job. Possibly all three of them could get knocked out. Let's keep going around the horn here. And then, Will, I know you're keeping an eye on that Tennessee game. We want to get an update on that. Tennessee is playing South Carolina in an SEC battle here tonight. Isaiah, Mac Jones, you know, he has the accuracy, he has the height, he has all the physical tools to be able to succeed when given a team with Debo, with Kittle, with McCaffrey, with Ayuk. Could Mac Jones have won a Super Bowl for the 49ers by now?
Well, yeah, I think he definitely could have. I think a lot of the issue, though, is really just the way we evaluate quarterbacks now in general. We want instant success from these guys, and sometimes that really isn't the best scenario for them in general. I think in Mac Jones's case, he kind of just had a really successful rookie year, and then they took everything from him and said, okay, go do the same thing again. And it just didn't work out that way. And so that became his reputation, was the season he had without weapons, without that same offense he was using in 2021 season. So I think a lot of it has to do with development. And then the way we evaluate quarterbacks, we give these guys 1 to 2 years to be successful. And if that doesn't work, you know, it's on to the next guy. And in Mac Jones's case, I think he is very capable of winning a Super Bowl. I mean, he led Alabama to the championship that COVID year, and he had the weapons that, I mean, just about any quarterback needs weapons outside of Patrick Mahomes, and he's entering a conversation that no other quarterback in the league is in right now. So I don't know that it's necessarily a Mac Jones problem or if it's a Kyle Shanahan problem. I think it's just a league-wide problem of evaluating quarterbacks and saying, hey, this guy isn't successful right now, so he can't be in the future. And I just think that's unfair to him. But absolutely, he can win a Super Bowl.
Yeah. All right. And just to give my response on this, so starting from the top down with this take that they have about Mac Jones winning a Super Bowl by now with the 49ers, is the first thing is, well, who are you saying he beat? He's not going to beat Mahomes, no matter what, no matter how good a fit he is. And that Rams team, I feel like, was a team of destiny with Cooper Kupp having that amazing year and Stafford winning the Super Bowl. So where do they think that Mac Jones would have won a Super Bowl? I don't see that. Could he have been successful in that system? I think maybe. Is a good answer. He's a game manager. He's not somebody that's a game winner. At least we haven't seen that from him in college or the pros, that he can be a game changer. He's a game manager, in my opinion. I think the interesting subplot in here, if this whole take is even true, it starts with them saying Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. And to me, this might be the beginning of a little bit of a rift here between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. A little bit of finger pointing here between those two, because I think Shanahan is feeling the heat for his job. And if he can distance himself from Trey Lance and say that was John Lynch, then that certainly makes him look a lot better. And so, and those two are supposed to be best buds. I think it was Cameron who was telling us the story of how Shanahan, brought in Lynch to be his GM. So a little bit of finger pointing here. Of course, none of this is actually, we didn't hear from Shanahan saying any of this. It's all just speculation. That's what makes it so fun on the Pat McAfee Show. All right, Will, let's get an update on what's happening in this SEC battle tonight with Tennessee and South Carolina.
Yeah, definitely win a Super Bowl. But as far as the game, looks like South Carolina's kind of gone cold for the last 4 minutes. The interesting thing is they actually beat Tennessee and have a better record. And they're I think they are +7 on the stat line. So I took that actually. I bet South Carolina +7. South Carolina has been slept on. I don't know if I can name anyone on their team, but Tennessee, that wooden winner guy, Dalton, is looking good too. So the game above that is interesting though too. I'm shocked Houston's struggling.
Yeah, Houston may be looking ahead to their big game on Saturday with Kansas. Didn't take UCF seriously and is down early. I expect them to pull it out, but we'll keep an eye on that. And interesting to hear your take on, I know you've been talking about South Carolina all year. Tennessee, of course, we watched them last week. They played Auburn. We covered that game, and Dalton Connect, I guess that's how you say his last name, Connect, which is so cool that he's shooting threes. He had 39 points in that game and just looked unstoppable. And they became probably my favorites at this point to win the national championship based on what I saw there. So let's see if they can hold home court tonight and hold off Tennessee. Of course, our primetime game kicks off at 8:30. We'll be covering this tonight, UConn versus Marquette. Really excited. This is probably the biggest game of the year for the Big East, possibly the biggest game of the year for college hoops, now that Kansas has kind of fallen off, making that Houston-Kansas showdown a little bit less lackluster. Of course, we have Duke-UNC on Saturday. And then next week we roll into conference tournament week. We're going to try to do something fun where we do March Madness style brackets for the conference tournaments, and try to come up with some fun prizes. So stay tuned for that as well. And we'll keep one eye on that game as we start to lead into tonight's game. Let's keep going with the Pat McAfee takes. This has been fun so far. At right before the game starts, I want to get everyone's take who has one on the UConn Marquette game. Don't feel like you have to give a take on every topic if you really don't know much about those teams. There's no point in rambling off a few stats. What we're really looking for is to get into the story. Dalton Connect, for example, the story of where did this kid come from? We were all talking about last week as we were watching him, right? And if one of us, we looked up the story, the Wikipedia. Oh, he transferred in. He's a portal guy. He's a fifth-year senior, right? And then we looked at who else was on that team. That's how you really get to know these squads, and that's what makes it really fun to follow these teams. It's going to be a really fun March Madness as we go. So let's do one more take from Pat McAfee today. Then I want to get into your takes. And I thought this is actually from yesterday's. but I thought it was really good, worth covering. So this is Bill Burr, who's a comedian, and Pat talking about the Patriots dynasty that's out. So let's go through this take. Bill Burr had a lot of interesting things to say as a Boston fan.
You say Colts as if everybody associated with Indianapolis. The players didn't want anything to do with that because every time it got brought up, it was mentioned that we lost by what, 430?
Yeah, I mean, it was like 48.
Yeah, we ran for like 300 yards too.
So that's what I'm saying. But I didn't do anything.
Here's another thing, Pat, for the love of God, why do you guys all act like that suspension wasn't reversed when they took it to court and they just laughed? The judge actually got upset saying there's no case here. Stop wasting my time. But then the NFL
It's talking about Deflategate here, right?
got panicked because they lost to a player and they're like, well, we got to suspend this guy, or every time we suspend somebody, we're going to have to pay for a lawsuit. Okay. You know, the NFL, they're all about the money. Okay. They act like they support the troops. They're charging them for a commercial every time you see a troop there. So don't get it twisted with these guys. So what they did was they changed their argument. They went back to court and they said, is the NFL a corporation? They said yes. They said, does a corporation have the right to suspend an employee? They said yes. They said, is Tom Brady an employee of our corporation? They said yes. They said, fine, he's suspended. That's what happened. That's what really happened. Your stupid study found the exact same number of underinflated balls.
I didn't do it.
Your guy sat on the competition committee. He made the way we covered your receivers illegal, and then you stole our offense. Pumped Cowboys into the Hoosier Dome and won the Super Bowl.
All right. Another great insight here. So is it spin and not true that the Patriots were caught cheating in Deflategate? Let's go around the horn on this. Jeremiah, what's your response to this clip from Pat McAfee and Bill Burr?
Bill Burr is a great comedian. Y'all should look him up if you don't know. He's a really funny guy. My take is they were definitely deflating the balls. Bill Belichick thinks of every minor to try to get an advantage on the competition. And I do not think they deflated the football so Tom Brady could throw it better. The guy's a pro. He has no problem. No one talked about it's a lot harder to force fumbles with a deflated football. Gronk can hold on to that thing a little bit better if there's not as much air in there. No one ever thought of it that way. I do believe
the investigation said that the balls were not deflated, that this is all just Patriots hate and that this was laughed out of court.
Well, if it was laughed out of court, that's information I was unaware of. All I know was the suspension portion with Tom Brady, and they said that 13 of the 14 balls, I thought, were under inflated. However, the weather could have played a fact in that. I'm not a scientist either.
Yeah. All right. This is really interesting, right? I'm a Boston guy, and I haven't heard this explanation of what really happened here. Let's keep going around the horn here. Alvin, what's your response to Pat McAfee Show and Bill Burr? Did the Patriots get caught cheating at Deflategate?
Okay. One, so when in a court of law, we're not interested in the truth. We're interested in the perception and the version of our truth. So if I can get the expertise to come in there and say whatever I need to say to speak my truth and prove beyond a shadow of a doubt about my truth is correct, that's what we're talking about in court. But as far as anything else, is Spygate imaginary? Was Bountygate imaginary? Belichick and the big thing, me growing up, even in Little League playing football and even as a coach, I've always heard if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So cheating is not actually cheating the game. It's actually talking about pushing the edge of the rules, those gray areas, until they define what those gray areas are. Like the catch that denied the Cowboys from going to the NFC Championship. Not to bring that up again, but the fact that we're actually debating at some point in time what is a catch and what's not a catch and what's control and this, that, and the third makes no sense. All we do know for a fact that Belichick and the Patriots organization is willing to do almost anything to win That is a fact. So whether we argue about whether the footballs were deflated or not, that something was going on. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Mm. All right. Yeah, this is really insightful. You know, and I always look to apply logic to other areas of life to kind of test myself, right? Because I try to be an objective person in looking at sports. I have no problem saying Magic Johnson was better than Larry Bird. You know, that Kobe was better than Paul Pierce, right? I try to be very objective in things. And so and one of the best tests for this is to look into other areas of life. So I feel like if your wife asks you, how do you feel about people who cheat? And you respond something like, what's your definition of cheating? Like, that's not going to go well. Or if you respond with something like, well, you know, everybody does it, that's also not going to go well. You know, and so that's kind of my litmus test on that. Let's keep going here. Loyal, what's your response to Pat McAfee Show claiming that the Patriots have been falsely accused of cheating?
I mean, hey man, I think Bill Burr definitely put a comedic spin on the event that definitely happened. My take on it, whether or not it did or didn't happen, we won't know. We won't know what was in the room. We don't know the what percentage of air was in the ball at that moment. To my knowledge, I definitely thought that was something that did happen. But I can also understand, people out there trying to create narratives that take away the Patriots' success because they were a nuisance for a couple of years. They were doing the thing. You couldn't stop them. And if you have a logic to where, hey, they took some air out the ball and, Tom Brady's on fire, then that's what they need to do. But to my opinion, no one's truly going to know. And honestly, it shouldn't really matter because they were still a dynasty during that time regardless.
Well said. Hey, who's your home team, by the way?
I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. It's been an interesting all season.
Yeah.
Thumbs down is crazy.
It sure
Thumbs down
is. It
crazy.
sure is. I don't want to get us derailed, but I want to come back to you and hear who you want at quarterback, given the market that's out there. Because I think that's really going to set the tone for what happens in in free agency. To me, it's Pittsburgh's choice and move to make first. All right, let's go next to Cameron. What's your response to the Pat McAfee Show and Bill Bird's rant that the Patriots were proven in court to be innocent? You are innocent until proven guilty. And the court system proved the Patriots innocent.
Yeah, I guess they tested the balls, right? Wasn't 11 to 12 of them under. But here's my thing on the whole thing. Here's what I have to think. It's such a minor infraction of the game, yet we still talk about it so many years later. The Patriots already had their consequence. Brady got a suspension. They paid their fines. They lost their draft picks. Yet the teams like the Houston Astros, they didn't get any consequence for what they did. Yet what they did is a lot bigger, looking at the whole picture, right? Or how about back in 2009, the whole bounty gate, right? That's a way worse situation than deflating some air in a football, right? And that was I remember that game. Brady wasn't really lighting up the Colts through the air that day. LeGarrette Blount had 4 touchdowns through the ground. They were killing them on the ground, and they smashed them like 40-something to 7. So the game was already over. I don't think Brady even said himself, I'm a Brady fan. He said he didn't interfere with the footballs in any way. Maybe the weather did have something to do with it, but I think the Patriots just got a lot of haters out there. They could be one, other than the Cowboys, probably the most hated franchise out there. So any hater will try to grab any tidbit of information and still talk about it many years later.
Yeah, well put. I feel like we've covered this response pretty well. Will, I want to point you to a specific part of this to get your take on. So the point that was being made about the league accused a player of something, it went to court. The court ruled in the player's favor. And so now there's like potentially slander or, a civil suit the player could have against the league, and the league needed an out. So the league determined, are we a corporation? Can we suspend him as an employee? And that's really how and why they suspended him, was so that this didn't become a precedent of teams suing and players suing, which no one has done since then, because it kind of got squashed here. Is that sound like a feasible situation that a corporation, like the $1 billion NFL would do, Will?
That's a tough question. I think with the other thing, like, I'm going to take it a different way. Like, I look at history in sports, all the punishments, nobody cares later on, Like, you look at Pete Carroll, all the stuff that happened at USC, nobody cares about that. Nobody remembered it. Reggie Bush losing the Heisman, like, like everyone still thinks he won the Heisman. Jim Harbaugh, all the Michigan stuff, whatever you think with that, he just is going to get out of it with the Chargers. So I think no matter what the league can do, like, people still value winners, People still value you when you win, no matter what the scrutiny, no matter what the stuff is. I'm trying to think of a situation where you got in so much trouble that they don't even like look at what you did, Can you think of a
That kind of
situation?
reminds me of, like, nobody looks at your GPA, when you're getting a
Yeah.
job 10 years later, or even right after college. It's like you got the degree, the teams have the title. What happened to get there isn't so much a part of it, I think.
No, but with your answer, Greg, I think the NHL had to make some big changes with like players at some point, right? So like the players have a say in some of the rules. And I think that's kind of where you're going. Like I think the NHL had to change some stuff a long time ago. Then one of the teams had a lockout. Was that the NHL, the NBA that had a lockout?
The league,
NBA
not
had
a
a
team, the
lockout.
league, the NBA had a lockout, but that was a while ago now. Yeah, we mostly talk basketball and football here. I'm not real up to date on the NHL. But all right, so to wrap this up, let me go to Isaiah here. And the part of this that I want to get your take on is kind of in response to a great statement that Alvin made, is that if you're not cheating, you're not trying. If that's now the status quo and just what we have to expect from pro sports, what kind of example are we setting for our youth? I don't think there's any coach or parent that's saying that to their kids. But if that's what kids are seeing, it's like, well, you're telling me one thing, but the reality is this thing. What do you make of that for kids, Isaiah?
Well, I think it actually is really encouraging to see things like that. I think what we've done kind of like together as like media and fans and players is really healthy for all of the leagues. Like look at basketball, for example, and what James Harden did for the foul, like what he did to change what is a foul and what is not, is he innovated how to create the foul. That was something he did and he gets credit for. But what we need to do is recognize what is unhealthy and what is healthy cheating for the game. Example would be like the tush push. That is not necessarily cheating, but is it healthy for the game? Is it something that's good for the game? And I think that you just have to look at it from that perspective. I think a lot of what the Patriots did was really unsavory. A lot of people didn't like it with Spygate and Deflategate and just kind of the way the Patriots went about it and then kept winning and going on afterwards. So I think you're seeing that with the Astros too. They're continuing to win despite the punishment that was set down on them. And it is really up to like the fans to decide what is good and what is bad when it comes to cheating. Is it just cutting corners in the rules, or are you innovating in what the next step is as far as limiting what players can and can't do on the court or on the field? And I think that has a lot to go with it going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of conflicting signals that are going to young people through sports. And I think it's important that sports is a beacon for integrity, for leadership, for commitment, for hard work. And sports should be sending a message that cheaters don't win and that you didn't really win if you cheated. And it's like, if I'm playing pickup basketball and the ball goes off my foot and I know it did and nobody else saw it, am I going to cheat and take the ball to win that game? No, like my pride is that I want to know that I beat you. It's like I play a lot of cards. It's like, I don't want to look at your cards. I want to know that I outsmarted you, that I beat you. That's why I love fantasy football so much, as opposed to betting. It's like I want to know that I outplayed you guys, that I knew more about smarts, that I evaluated the talent better than you, clean and fair. I think that's an important message that sports needs to be communicating. And that when something is found to be cheating, it needs to be harshly dealt with. Not just, removing a championship, but for sure, at least doing that. Because to me, that does mean that cheaters don't win if you lost your championship, like happened in college. But it also needs to be clear. You're also innocent until you're fully proven guilty, and things need to be clearly defined. People are always going to find loopholes in things. Again, if we look to metaphors in life, well, if you're allowed to write off certain things on your taxes, like, oh, Alvin and I went to lunch and talked sports when I have a sports business now. So can I write off that lunch? That's according to the tax laws, like that's allowed, right? That's a loophole, but that's not even a loophole. It's just like how the tax law works. And so, but is that still okay or not? I think it is something, for all of us to kind of look at and look in the mirror and make sure we're raising this next generation with the highest standards. All right, we're going to roll next, right? We're already at 8 into your takes. Isaiah has his hand up. If you want to spin anything in from this conversation, we'll do that. But I want to go around the horn and get your takes on what you're seeing in current events. Anything come to mind, Isaiah?
I just saw some more talk today about the Russell Wilson. I was just real quick. I think it was cool that we kind of all acknowledged across the MLB that the Astros didn't win that World Series, and so I think that's also another effect. You can't really feel like you won if no one else acknowledges it, and so I think that's another large part of it. But for Denver, I wanted to kind of touch on Russell Wilson. I heard something today that Russell Wilson will be competing for a starting job. And I disagree with that. I think that Russell Wilson is capable of having a starting job. If Baker Mayfield can get a starting job, there's 32 spots in the league. I think he's very capable. I find it interesting where people are saying he's going. There's talks of Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and Minnesota. And I found that interesting. I just have wondered what everybody else kind of felt about him. And I think he's not going to be a starter next year. But I just think the consensus is kind of all over the place. And I thought it was interesting. My take is that he will not start next year and that he will be back up somewhere in like New York or Giants, for an example, would be a great landing place for him because he could sit for maybe the first 4 or 5 weeks, collect himself. And then when Danny Dimes isn't doing it, he could step in and see if he can take the job. But that would be places like that would be my guess for him. The Jets would be another one.
Okay. Yeah, let's continue on this. It's a good topic. Let's go next to Loyal, our Steelers fan. Do you guys want Russell Wilson or who do you want? And then we'll get everyone's take on Russell Wilson.
To be honest, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, it's been a rough off season. But when we really look at the full picture, and I'll say if you're a true Pittsburgh Steelers fan, like true to tradition, you don't want Russell Wilson. You want Kenny Pickett to finish out the career. And I'll say this because as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, when have you ever seen us take a quarterback mid-first round? When have you ever seen us abandon a quarterback, not finish a project? And when have we not been consistent as far as, all right, this is plan A, we're going to stick with him, let's move forward. Russell Wilson would be a great move as far as monetarily, you know what I mean? You can sign him for, a veteran contract. You won't have to pay too much. But if we sign Russell Wilson, that's basically saying, look, that first round pick on Kenny Pickett was worthless. And you guys made the horrible decision. And the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have a tradition of making decisions like that, in my opinion. But that's just me.
All right, interesting take. How old are you, by the way? I'm so curious because I want to talk Pittsburgh going back.
27.
27. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And I'm talking. I'll talk recent Pittsburgh. Like
yeah,
I
well,
grew up Ben Roethlisberger
to me,
era.
you guys didn't give up on Roethlisberger. He was winning.
Right.
His rookie year was amazing. So it's like you've
Right.
had this amazing run with Roethlisberger. There was no
Right.
window to give up on. So I guess maybe you say you let him stay late in his career, but that gave you your best chance at winning. The team was better with Roethlisberger. Let me ask you the question a different way because I love to look into other areas of life for insights. Loyal, if you go to a movie and it's a 3-hour movie and 1 hour into it, it is the absolute worst movie. Like you are hating every minute in that movie. Do you stay and finish the movie for 2 more hours because you bought a $10 ticket? Or do you leave the movies? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Right. And my answer to that would be if my favorite actor is Denzel. So if you tell me Denzel's in this movie,
No favorite actor. It's a bad movie. The point is, do you stay in a bad movie, or is that a waste of 2 more hours that you could have do something?
I think someone stays at the movie depending why they came to the movie though.
I want to ask you if you go in the movie,
if I went to the movie, I'm coming for a reason. So I wanted to see that movie.
You thought
so
it was going to be good, and you can tell it's not good an hour in. You're going to stay for 2 more hours?
We wait to the end, but that's Pittsburgh Steelers tradition, baby. To the end.
Okay, that's interesting. To me, like in the game of the reason I don't play poker is I don't know when to fold them. I like to play it out. It's fun to me to play it out. But that's why my friends are like, Greg, you're the kind of guy we want to play poker with. You got money to lose and you don't fold. We're going to come take your money.
Happened to me a few nights ago, Greg, with Dune. Me and a few friends, we left halfway through the movie.
But the question is, are you referencing leaving halfway through as a movie Kenny Pickett?
I'm
saying,
that what
you're
halfway through Kenny Pickett's career and he's awful. And Patriots are in the same spot with Mac Jones. Like he's awful. He's awful. He was a bad pick. People make bad picks. He was a hometown pick. Maybe that influenced him. Like he's never going to start in the NFL, in my opinion. It's pretty obvious in 2 years of putting him out there. And if he has any chance of starting, why not bring in a veteran to to see it through? To me, if you want to win now, Russell Wilson's the best quarterback on the market. If you want to, have another, wild card season, 9-7 season, then maybe you stick it out with Pickett another year.
And one of the last thing I'll say really quick is, trust me, I get it. As a Steelers fan, I was tearing my hair out last season. I'm like, Kenny Pickett, what's going on? And to be honest, I woke up this morning, saw the draft board, and really looked at it because I was really a fan of Justin Fields coming to Pittsburgh. But when I really looked at everything and I evaluated, I'm like, that's not going to happen. I think Justin Fields going to Atlanta. I think Pittsburgh's going to stay with Kenny Pickett for a year. And to be honest, I'll give him some more time. I think Pittsburgh is. We saw with Matt Canada. We'll give you time, but once it's time to cut the faucet off, it's time to cut the faucet off. But I'm willing to give him more time.
Yeah. Well, from what I'm hearing, nobody wants Justin Fields right now. The market for him is really dwindling. They were asking for a number 1. There's been no offers of 1s or 2s. And so the market is people don't want Justin Fields. Partly, you got to give up a pick. You're bringing in a guy who's not quite proven. He does seem to have upside. Like, I'm not saying he doesn't, but he's also coming into last year of a contract, right? So people do not want that situation in him. And there's other good options that are out there right now. I'm surprised that no one wants Justin Fields. I thought it would be a no-brainer for a number 1 for him. I'll tell you, in New England, I would give up a 3rd and a 5th, and I'd be happy with Fields.
Yeah.
I think we could draft Marvin Harrison and bring in Justin Fields and be competitive this year and possibly be building towards a Super Bowl. I think those are 2 guys you could build a Super Bowl team around. All right, let's hear next from Jeremiah. Well, let's stay on the Russell Wilson and quarterback free agency.
Russell Wilson, I think he would do well in Pittsburgh, but I have to agree with Loyal there. I like Kenny Pickett there. Being a Bengals fan, it's an easier win for us. Definitely. All right, let's keep Kenny Pickett there. I think they picked Kenny Pickett up to right the wrong for not picking Marino back in '83. Anyways, that's a different story. Russell Wilson could be a winning quarterback anywhere in the NFC South if he went there. They're not going to give up on Bryce Young in Carolina, but all the other jobs are open as far as I'm concerned. I see him land in the NFC South.
Yeah. And I was going to point back in Steelers history. This would be before Loyal's time here, but the Steelers went to a Super Bowl with Neil O'Donnell under Bill Cowher. And
96.
And then he was out. Like Cordell Stewart came out of nowhere. Like that guy wasn't even drafted to play quarterback, and suddenly he was in there. There was this loyalty of sticking to a quarterback is true for Roethlisberger's career, but it's a business. I don't think anybody expects that. All right, let's keep going around. Well, I want to also, while Isaiah's take is fresh in mind, kind of respond to that. To me, Russell Wilson will not go somewhere unless he is starting. I don't see that he will. Why would he go be a backup somewhere? Why wouldn't he just retire if he's not good enough to start? Like, why? He's already getting paid no matter what. What's the point of going through all the off season, all the learning a new playbook, dealing with all the bullshit if you're going to be a backup? I don't see that he would want that, or that anyone would want that. And from what I'm hearing about his ego, I especially don't think that he would want that. I don't even know that he's willing to compete for a starting job. And Russell will get to choose where he goes, right? That's the biggest knock I'm hearing, is that the Steelers said, we'll bring you in and you can compete with Pickett, and that Russell's may not even go for that then. But to me, Russell Wilson is, if you're trying to win now, if you're a win now franchise, he's the move you got to make. Let's keep going around the horn here. Will, what do you see in the quarterback market in free agency?
I think there's some guys we haven't talked a lot about. Jacoby Brissett, I think he's an underrated player. He was on the Browns for a little bit, and people thought he did better than Watson. When Watson was suspended, people thought he was a better quarterback, and there are people, some of my Browns fans, they actually thought that they would have made the playoffs with him. The way he was playing so well, and then Watson came in and it all fell apart. And he's a little younger. I think he's early 30s, late 20s, I think. So, and then Jameis Winston's going to be an interesting one. There's a lot of solid quarterback free agents. Kirk Cousins is definitely the most interesting one, I think.
Yeah. Well, Jacoby Brissett, let's talk about him because you bring him up and we haven't mentioned him yet. I agree. He deserves to be starting in the NFL. He filled in for Tua, and Miami was winning games with him at quarterback that year. Tua had all the concussions, and he's won at Cleveland. He can win in the regular season. He's not going to take you to a Super Bowl. I think we would have seen that from him by now. It would be really unprecedented for him to come in and, even win a playoff game. But he's like, to me, he's the bottom of the barrel. But like, we're talking about the top 30 quarterbacks in the league, right? Because he's in the top 30, plus the rookies that are coming in, and deserves to be in the conversation. But he's kind of like the consolation prize if you don't get what you're going for. The other guy that is not mentioned yet is Baker Mayfield. To me, Atlanta. Here's how, if I'm predicting how this starts to go, it starts with Atlanta throwing a 4-year huge deal at Baker Mayfield. To me, that's Atlanta's move. And the reason why is you destroy Tampa and you open up that division for yourself now by bringing Baker in. Tampa, I think, is trying to give Baker a 2-year deal, similar to what they gave Mike Evans. I don't really want to give Baker a 4-year deal. If Atlanta throws a 4-year offer at him, I'm kind of like, I guess you got to let him take it. We have a guy, Kyle Trask, in waiting in the wings, and maybe you bring in a veteran to go with it. But that's, to me, that's Atlanta. That's the smart move for Atlanta to make, is to bring in Baker, and then things start to trickle and go from there. There's also a lot of talk right now that Kirk Cousins is going to Atlanta. If Cousins leaves, Minnesota's got to take Wilson. He can come right in and start. You know, they don't have anybody left in there that can play there. And he could. That team has great receivers and was competing for the playoffs last year. So that would be a great fit for Wilson.
So the Vikings done? Like, who's their quarterback now?
Well, they have. I mean, they're hoping to bring Cousins back.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's still out there. I mean, Jefferson is coming back. Addison had a great rookie year. They've got some talented receivers. They need a running back in this year's draft. They'll definitely be looking at running back. David, let's go next over to you. And we're going to try to get all these in, and then we'll kick off our pregame takes on UConn Marquette. What's your take on the Super Bowl, the quarterback free agent market?
Yeah, so I think Baker Mayfield staying put. Kirk Cousins is going to be an interesting one. I don't see him leaving Minnesota because they don't, as of this moment, they don't have a backup plan, and they're not going to have the room to go get one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. Top 3 being Caleb Williams, Drake May, the kid out of LSU. I don't see them making a move to get one of the bottom barrel guys as their top this year. So I don't see a Bo Nix. I don't see a JJ McCarthy. I don't see a Michael Penix Jr. being the guy of the future. So Kirk Cousins, I think, is a lock to stay back in Minnesota. But now Justin Fields is where it gets interesting because I see Chicago going for him. So it's where does Fields land? I think Russell Wilson talked about it. His best move is going to Pittsburgh. Justin Fields, I could see going to Atlanta. He's from Atlanta. What's going to be interesting, we talked about your boy Brisket. What about Josh Dobbs? That's a name we haven't spoken about on this yet. Josh Dobbs had made a name for himself last year. He started the season with the Browns. Right before the season started, he got traded to Arizona, I think it was, and mid-season Arizona traded him to Minnesota, and he won a game or 2 over there before they finally benched him. I think he's going to be a serviceable guy. Whoever doesn't win the quarterback sweepstakes, whether it be, maybe Washington goes for a bridge quarterback, maybe New England brings him in, maybe the Raiders bring him in. It'll be interesting, but Josh Dobbs is a name to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I mean, Dobbs, he wound up getting benched in Minnesota, right? He was having a decent year with the Cardinals. He knocked off the Cowboys. He won that great game, one of his first games with Minnesota. And then he seemed to kind of fizzle out and just, is what he is. But he's probably right there in, the top 30, the bottom of the top 30 quarterbacks that are out there.
Yeah, that's what Fitzmagic was able to make his career off of. So, I mean, why not with Josh Dobbs? That's the way I see it. He might have the 1 or 2 games where he'll throw for the 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Then he might have the game where he throws the 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
Very true. We're going to go next to Cameron, but I just want to hop and look at the draft board because there's some other people that might be available that we haven't considered yet, right? That need to find a home. The Raiders also are a team that needs a quarterback. So assuming Caleb goes number 1 to Chicago and Washington takes a quarterback at number 2, that means that Washington's quarterback from this past year would be available. And I still think there's some potential there. New England, not expected to take a quarterback, even though they need one. But everything I'm hearing is that they're going to go Joe Alt or Marvin Harrison here. I'd actually like him to trade down, but I'm getting more interest in Joe Alt, the O-lineman. And then, so it looks like Arizona is going to wind up in the 4 spot. If they take Jaden Daniels or one of these quarterbacks, that means Kyler Murray will also be on the market as a free agent. So he's another option. I could see him maybe going to the Raiders. Cameron, what do you see happening with quarterback free agency?
Yeah, let me tell you what I like about Russell Wilson in this quarterback free agency. So the Broncos are the team that's going to pay him $40 million a year. I think what Russell Wilson can do to revive his legacy or maybe get a whole second stint of his career is he was the man, right? He was the man on the QB rookie deals there in Seattle. That's why they were able to build and go on a Super Bowl 4 or 5 year run with that team. They signed him to the rookie minimal deal, brought in free agents to stack up that defense. I think maybe you can do that same thing with the team. You sign him to the vet or the minimum deal. Broncos are paying him $40 million anyways, and that's the other thing I don't understand. It seems like the whole time he was on the Broncos, they never really saw eye to eye. Yet they signed him to a 5 year extension, and then they're blowing that up the next year. So I think that can benefit another team. We've talked about the Raiders, we've talked about the Vikings, we've talked about the Steelers, and we've talked about the Falcons. I like those 4 teams for Russell Wilson. I think he should get a veteran minimum deal with one of those teams. Maybe another team that we're sleeping on is the New York Giants. Are we sold on Danny Dimes? You know, to me, he hasn't really proven anything. I mean, he's a big he's a Josh Allen type quarterback, right? He gets out the pocket, it's hard to bring down, but I think he has kind of a weenie arm, right? Throws the ball, falls down in open space. But I think I really like this next season, and maybe we can see Russell Wilson stack up a defense and be more of a team player. Because that's why people didn't like him in Seattle either, right? Or towards the tail end of his career, he was asking for all that money.
Yeah, I think the Giants are weak. I think Tennessee is also weak at quarterback, right? They seem committed to Will Levens, but I think Russell could win the starting job there. But in my opinion, if he's going to want to play, so he's going to want to start, and he's going to want to win. His legacy is very tainted right now with how poorly he's played at Denver. It's not his fault the team overtraded for him and overextended him, but it looks bad on him. So he's going to want to play. If you're looking for win now situations, to me, the Steelers are a game away, our quarterback away. Like they have good receivers, they have good running back, they have a good defense. Wilson would be a great fit in Pittsburgh. They would be in the Super Bowl conversation, I feel like, if Wilson got there. Better than Fields. I think Fields is also a good fit there. I mean, Wilson's still a guy that can lead game-winning drives. He's done it throughout his career, right? Does he still have it left in the tank? We don't know, but has done it. So compared to somebody who's never done that, he's got that experience. So I think he would be a great fit in Pittsburgh. That's the number one place I see him going. Unless Cousins leaves, then I could see him going to Minnesota. Alvin,
Atlanta's a good fit too. Raheem Morris has stated that they just need a quarterback that can get their weapons the ball, and they're gonna and they want to attack the run game this year with Bijan Robinson. You know, Wilson has experience in the past with Marshawn Lynch and just getting the ball out quickly to his weapons.
Yeah, the Atlanta coach is saying that, but I don't know if to me, that's a very big unproven, right? All those guys the jury's still out on Drake London and Kyle Pitts, even Bijan. Tannehill's another guy who's on the market. Jameis, I don't think anybody's going to want him at 30. Minshew made the Pro Bowl last year. I think he deserves to be in the mention. Tyrod Taylor's 35. Let's just finish out on this segment, Alvin, and then Loyal, and then we're gonna go start pre-gaming for UConn. Okay.
All right, as the new campaign manager for my QB candidate, we like to take our talents to the Bay Area. And Kyle Shanahan, my client, Russ, he would like to say, you've given Purdy 2 opportunities. Now it's time to allow me to be your new chef in the kitchen in the Bay Area, which is known for wonderful foods. You have all the ingredients you shop for the groceries, adding his talents into your kitchen to let him cook in the Bay Area. So why not, Russ? Why not allow him to come in and be the tipping you need to shake and get the gorilla off of losing these big games?
Yeah, so that's a very unique take, Russ Wilson to the 49ers.
Let's roll with the waves, baby. Let's go.
Right. I mean, the 49ers are knocking at the door of the Super Bowl. and championship. To me, I'm a Purdy fan, right? Purdy, he got injured and got knocked out and lost to Philly. And then last year, he did his part and they kind of blew it in overtime. So I don't think that Russ would necessarily be an upgrade on Purdy. And that Shanahan would do that. Now, if Shanahan going into next year, if Shanahan gets fired, it could be a whole new situation, and Purdy's contract will start to be winding down as well. But for this year, I don't see that happening. But I like that take. All right, last word on this, Loyal.
And you got to have that veteran leadership. Super Bowl.
Appreciate that, man. I just wanted to make sure I was
Yeah, he's getting a little static on Alvin's connection there. Go ahead, Loyal.
my fault, Alvin. I didn't mean to talk over you there. No, I just wanted to make it perfectly clear. Like, look, Russell Wilson would be a great fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Win now situation, I totally agree. I think this is a situation where the general manager has to come in and really establish what he wants for the future for the next several years. And lastly, someone mentioned the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL draft. To be honest, they got the 11th pick. I don't think taking the quarterback is completely out the question. Yes, they need help on the edge and O-line, but there's a couple quarterbacks out there. The first 13 picks are going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I'm with you, but I think that makes Russell Wilson still a great fit, right? If they draft Bo Nix or McCarthy or Penix, you can let him sit for a year or two, have Russell start and win now and kind of groom him and come along. So I think a team that drafts one of those late first-round quarterbacks, that's a good situation for Russell to step into, because I don't think any of those guys will be ready to start in their rookie year. In conclusion, as far as how I see this shaking out, I think Atlanta will blow it. They should go after Baker Mayfield. Atlanta never does the right thing. They're not going to do that. Baker will resign with Tampa. So what does Atlanta do then? I think Atlanta throws all their money at Kirk Cousins. I don't really see that working out for anyone over there. I would not want any of those guys on my fantasy team with Cousins. He's not young. And I think his team made his stats look better than they were in Minnesota. I think they were winning despite him, not in spite of him, not because of him at all. So Atlanta signs Cousins and falls apart. That opens up the Minnesota job. Wilson goes to Minnesota. So what's left for Pittsburgh? There's Kyler Murray going to Oakland. Pittsburgh could make a run at Justin Fields. I would hope that they want him. It makes a lot of sense that they want him. If they don't want him, and New England can get him for picks around 3rd or 5th round, I would absolutely take Fields in New England as well. So that's kind of how I see this playing out. All right, so that's going to conclude this segment of our Pat McAfee response show. And we're going to next go into our segment on tonight's game, the